Let's jump right in. Today we're taking some of the most foundational and, let's be honest, sometimes totally abstract concepts in programming, classes, objects, and constructors, and we're going to make them incredibly tangible for you. If you've ever felt like object-oriented programming is a bit of a maze, well, you're in exactly the right place. We're going to use a really simple, powerful factory metaphor to bring the whole thing to life.
Okay, let's quickly look at the roadmap for this explainer. We've got 6 sections lined up. Section 1 is blueprints versus actual objects. Section 2, defining a Python class. Section 3 covers constructors and initializing the state. Section 4, tracing unique object states. Section 5 puts Python and Java side by side. And finally, Section 6, avoiding common coding mistakes.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, blueprints versus actual objects.
Imagine you're building a massive factory. You wouldn't just start welding metal together randomly, right? I mean, obviously, you need a design. And that is exactly what a class is. Think of a class as your master blueprint or a template for creating objects. It dictates precisely what data an object is going to store, which we usually call attributes or properties, and it defines what that object can actually do, which we call its methods. By grouping all this related data and behavior into one reusable structure, we literally save ourselves a massive amount of work down the line.
So here is the core dynamic we're working with. The class is the blueprint. The object is the actual tangible instance created from that blueprint. The absolute most important thing to grasp here is that a single class can be used to create dozens, hundreds, or even thousands of objects. And those objects, they'll all share the exact same structure because they come from the same blueprint, but they'll absolutely have their own unique state. They hold their own specific, independent values.
Let's ground this theory using an analogy we're all familiar with, a car factory. In this case, the class is car. The blueprint basically says every single car that rolls off this assembly line must have certain characteristics, or attributes, things like a color, a speed, and a brand. It also says every car must be able to perform certain actions, or methods, like accelerating and braking. Now, the actual physical cars driving off the lot, maybe you've got a red Toyota and a blue Ford, those are your objects, car 1 and car 2. It's the exact same blueprint, but totally different physical realities.
Moving right along, Section 2, defining a Python class.
Let's actually imagine the components of a book class in Python. And hey, don't get overwhelmed if you're new to the syntax. We're going to break it all down. We'd start with the word class, followed by book. Inside of that, we'd have a very special method called init, which takes parameters like title, author, and pages. And just below that, we might have another method, maybe called show_details, that simply prints out those exact details for us to see.
Let's see how this code actually builds out piece by piece. Step 1 is super simple. Typing class book tells the computer we're drafting a brand new blueprint called book. Step 2 introduces that init method. In Python, this acts as our constructor, and it runs completely automatically the moment a new object is created. Step 3 is where we use the word self. Things like self.title and self.author are the attributes physically stored inside the object. And finally, step 4, we define our custom methods, like show_details, which can then grab those stored values to actually do something useful.
So, how do we use this book blueprint in practice? Well, we instantiate it. We create objects. We can literally stamp out book 1, set it to 1984 by George Orwell, with 328 pages. Then, boom, we stamp out book 2. Dune by Frank Herbert with 412 pages. These are completely separate entities. Even though they were stamped out by the exact same book class, Book 1's title is uniquely 1984, and Book 2's title is uniquely Dune. They're living completely independent lives in your computer's memory.
Let's dive deeper into that spark of creation. Section 3, constructors, initializing the state.
Now, we mentioned the word constructor just a moment ago. A constructor is a very special method. Think of it kind of like a meticulous factory worker whose sole job is to ensure that the moment a new object is created, it's immediately handed its crucial first values. It initializes the object so it starts its life with a totally valid, usable state. But why do we care so much about constructors? Well, there are 4 main reasons. First off, they set those initial attribute values instantly. Second, they reduce repeated setup code. I mean, instead of configuring your object line by line every single time you make one, you just do it all at once in the constructor. Third, it means objects are ready to be used the exact microsecond they're created. And fourth, it drastically improves the reliability of your code by guaranteeing that no object ever begins its life missing critical information.
And this crucial point is perfectly captured when we think about a bank account. Without a constructor, you risk creating a broken, empty object, kind of like a shattered piggy bank. But with a constructor, the moment an account is created, it catches incoming values right away. The object takes its first breath, already containing valid data. It's like a whole piggy bank instantly tied to an owner, Lena, and filled with a starting balance of 500. There's literally no such thing as an empty, broken bank account in this system.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 4, Tracing Unique Object States. Imagine we're building a video game. We have a blueprint, which is our player class. We create our first player, P1, named Ava, with a score of 10. Then we immediately create a second player, P2, named Ben, with a score of 25. The constructor is called once for Ava, and then completely separately again for Ben. Let's be the computer for a second and trace this out step by step. Step 1. Right after P1 is created, the object in memory is P1, its name attribute is definitively Ava, and the score is 10. Step 2. After P2 is created, we have a completely new, distinct row in memory. Object P2, name Ben, score 25. The computer keeps these completely walled off from one another.
And the core implication of that strict separation is this. Changing P1 later would not change P2 because they are completely different instances. If Ava finds a treasure chest and her score suddenly jumps to 100, Ben's score stays exactly at 25. No impact whatsoever. They share the player blueprint, sure, but they absolutely do not share their physical state.
All right, Section 5, Python and Java side by side. If we compare the Python approach with the Java approach, the syntax they use definitely looks a bit different. Python uses that somewhat quirky init method we talked about. Java simply uses a method named exactly after the class itself. But if you look underneath those brackets, the shared philosophy is completely identical. Both define a template, both accept incoming values, and both output an object. Once you understand the underlying concept of blueprints and constructors, honestly, you can read it in almost any programming language.
Finally, Section 6, Avoiding Common Coding Mistakes. These 3 mistakes are basically rites of passage for new coders, so let's get ahead of them. Mistake 1, confusing the class with the object. Remember, you can't drive a blueprint. You have to instantiate the class into an object first. Mistake 2, forgetting to use the constructor properly. If you create an object but forget to pass it the initial values it expects, your program is likely going to crash because the object is starting its life missing critical data. And mistake 3, which is very specific to Python, forgetting the word self. If you just type title equals title instead of self.title, that data literally vanishes into thin air rather than being permanently stored inside the object. Always use self to attach the data to the instance. Which brings us to the end of our explainer today. We've gone from abstract factory analogies all the way down to tracing Python memory states. But at the end of the day, coding is all about creation. So I want to leave you with this thought. If classes are the blueprints of the digital world, what real-world object will you blueprint next in your code? Take these concepts, open up your editor, and start building your own objects. Thank you so much for joining me to explore this, and as always, keep learning.